13 Oscar winners. One impossible battle. Nobody survived the truth. A Bridge Too Far, 1977. Richard Attenborough. The most expensive war film ever made. About one of history's most catastrophic failures. Operation Market Garden, September 1944. 35,000 paratroopers. One narrow road. 9 bridges. The 9th bridge was one too far. The title came from a warning. Fact 1. A warning nobody listened to. September 17, 1944. Operation Market Garden launched. British Lieutenant General Frederick Browning looked at the battle plans, told Field Marshal Montgomery, "I think we may be going a bridge too far." One sentence. Quiet. Casual. Ignored. 9 days later, thousands dead. The operation. Disaster. That phrase became Cornelius Ryan's book title. Then, this film's title. Some historians debate whether Browning actually said those exact words. Doesn't matter. 6 words defined an entire chapter of the war. They're carved on memorials across Britain and the Netherlands today. A warning that became an epitaph. Fact 2. Producer Joseph E. Levine assembled the most staggering cast in cinema history. Sean Connery, Robert Redford, Anthony Hopkins, Michael Caine, Gene Hackman, James Caan, Laurence Olivier, Dirk Bogarde, Elliot Gould, Ryan O'Neal, Edward Fox, 13 actors who had won or would win Oscars, all in one film. To afford them, Levine offered flat fees, $250,000 per actor. For stars of that caliber in the late 70s, practically a discount. They signed anyway. The script, the history, the weight, the poster alone could sell out theaters. Fact 3. The author never saw his story come to life. Cornelius Ryan spent years researching Operation Market Garden, interviewed hundreds of veterans from both sides, wrote his 1974 book while dying of prostate cancer. His wife Catherine watched him type through the pain. Morphine on the desk. Manuscript growing. Death closing in. He finished the book 6 months before he died. Told Catherine, "Now they'll remember." Ryan died November 23, 1974, 3 years before the film premiered. Never saw a single frame. The film is a tribute, not just to the soldiers, to the man who made sure their story would never be forgotten. Fact 4. Dirk Bogarde carried his own battlefield into the film. He played Lieutenant General Frederick Browning, but his connection to World War II went deeper than any script. Bogarde served in the British Army during the war. April 1945. Among the first Allied soldiers to enter Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. 40,000 corpses. Survivors too weak to stand. Bogarde was 24 years old. What he saw there destroyed any illusions about humanity. Other actors noticed immediately. Bogarde brought an intensity that wasn't acting. It was remembering. Fact 5. The iconic Arnhem Bridge at the center of the story didn't exist. The original bridge British paratroopers fought to hold had been destroyed during the war, replaced by a modern structure that looked nothing like 1944. The production found a near-perfect match in Deventer, 30 kilometers from Arnhem. Right look, right scale, right atmosphere. They dressed it up and filmed every battle sequence there. Most audiences never knew. Different bridge, different town, same story. To this day, tourists visit Arnhem looking for the bridge from the movie. They're in the wrong town. Fact 6. Gene Hackman's accent nearly broke him. Hackman played Polish Major General Stanisław Sosabowski. Fiery, skeptical, defiant. One problem, the Polish accent. By Hackman's own admission, getting the voice right was one of the hardest challenges of his career. Dialect coaches, recordings, constant rehearsal, never felt natural. Polish audiences had mixed reactions. Some appreciated the effort, others found it unconvincing. Despite the vocal struggles, his performance captured Sosabowski's defiance beautifully. Sometimes, emotion carries harder than accent. Fact 7. 1,000 real paratroopers jumped for the camera. Attenborough refused to fake the massive parachute drop sequences. The production recruited over 1,000 serving soldiers from British and American armed forces. Real jumps. Real aircraft. NATO had to approve. The British Ministry of Defense signed off. Insurance nightmares. One mistake and soldiers die. Coordinating that many jumpers, aircraft, and camera crews was a military operation in itself. What you see on screen isn't special effects or clever editing. Those are real soldiers leaping from real planes. Fact 8. The river crossing nearly killed them for real. One of the most intense scenes, the American assault crossing of the Wall River. Soldiers paddling canvas boats under heavy German fire. The water was freezing. September in Holland. Practical explosions threw 20-foot geysers of water. Debris rained down. One boat flipped completely. Actors underwater in period uniforms, weighted down by gear. Robert Redford was in the thick of it. He later said it was the most scared he'd ever been on a film set. That fear in the actors' eyes during the crossing isn't all performance. They weren't acting anymore. They were surviving. 1,000 real paratroopers. A cast of 13 Oscar winners. A river crossing that nearly drowned them. From here, the film gets more personal. Fact 9. William Goldman faced an impossible screenplay. One of Hollywood's most celebrated screenwriters. Fresh off Butch Cassidy and All the President's Men. A Bridge Too Far presented a unique challenge. Dozens of real-life characters, multiple simultaneous military operations, overlapping timelines across several countries. Goldman later admitted it was one of the hardest scripts he ever wrote, clear enough for audiences unfamiliar with the battle, detailed enough to honor the veterans who lived it. A high-wire act. Goldman walked it masterfully. Fact 10. Attenborough's obsession with authenticity reached another level, filmed in the actual Dutch towns where the battles took place. Arnhem, Nijmegen, Eindhoven. Consulted surviving veterans throughout production. Invited them to set to verify every detail. One veteran pointed at a scene. Wrong boots. Production stopped. Found the right boots. Another said tank placement was off by 15 feet. They moved the tanks. If a veteran said something looked wrong, Attenborough changed it. This wasn't just filmmaking. It was responsibility. Fact 11. Dutch citizens became the extras and relived their childhoods. Attenborough cast local civilians in crowd scenes. Many had lived through Operation Market Garden as children. When cameras rolled on liberation scenes, the emotions were genuine. One elderly woman burst into tears. She had been 12 years old in 1944, remembered British tanks rolling in. Now, 33 years later, doing it again. The crew stopped filming. Let her have the moment. The line between filmmaking and living memory dissolved completely. Fact 12. The budget made history. $25 million. In 1977, that was extraordinary. One of the most expensive films ever made. Star Wars, released the same year, cost $11 million. Producer Joseph E. Levine personally financed much of it, bet everything on international appeal. The gamble paid off in Europe, Britain, and the Netherlands especially. American box office, modest. Europe understood. They'd lived it. Fact 13. Edward Fox stole the film with one speech. Fox played Lieutenant General Brian Horrocks, commander of XXX Corps. His briefing to officers before the push begins is essentially a monologue, delivered with Fox's sharp, aristocratic precision. It electrifies the screen. Fox studied footage and recordings of the real Horrocks, known as a brilliant communicator and motivator of troops. Confident, witty, fully aware of the stakes. Many consider that briefing the single best moment in the film. Stunning economy, pure charisma. Fact 14. The film divided critics but united veterans. Critics were split. Too sprawling, too many stars, too long. One audience embraced it unanimously. The veterans of Operation Market Garden. Colonel John Frost himself attended a screening. Sat in silence through the entire film. Someone asked what he thought. Frost said, "That's how it was." 3 words. From the man who'd held the bridge. That was all Attenborough needed to hear. Fact 15. The bridge got its name from the man who held it. The modern Arnhem Bridge was officially renamed the John Frost Bridge in 1977, the same year the film was released, named after Colonel John Frost, who led the stand at the bridge during Market Garden. The film had reignited public interest. The Dutch government honored his bravery. Frost attended the dedication ceremony. 33 years after the battle, he stood on a new bridge in the same spot. It bore his name, history completing its own arc. Fact 16. The composer wasn't writing about the battle. He was scoring his own memories. John Addison composed the film's score, but during World War II, Addison had served as a lieutenant in the British Army. His unit was part of XXX Corps, the same ground force that attempted the drive to Arnhem. He had been there, saw the tanks stuck on that single road, German artillery picking them off, watched the operation fail in real time. 33 years later, sitting down to compose, those images came back. Every note carried the weight of personal experience. That's why the music feels different from any other war film score. It doesn't dramatize, it remembers, and that distinction makes all the difference. They tried to capture a failed operation. What they ended up capturing was the memory of the people who survived it.